So I was just thinking about this as you were speaking about something that I'm sure Alex won't mind me sharing. At the beginning of our relationship, I said to him, I really need you to communicate how you feel towards me. That's you know, and that's what I've based my relationships of in the past. And he was saying, oh, but it's not all about words for me; it's about actions. I'm like, that's great that works for you. Actions isn't my love language. It's not how words of affirmations and physical touch and quality time is my love language.
Mm,
And I need to be able to feel that, otherwise I'm really going to struggle. And he said, oh, it's so weird. It's been like this in every single relationship I've been in. The girls always wanting communication and me not being able to give it to them. And I was like, oh, okay, bit of a pattern. I said, do you think maybe that's something that you need to become aware of? And he was like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Because I think it was very easy for him to say all women are, rather than saying, oh, actually, this is a me issue. Yeah. Um, and sort of it's the same with me with my fears around cheating, my fears around, as well as having an abusive ex. He was massively unfaithful. I knew about it the whole time
mm,
and stayed with him anyway. Um, my fears around that, to the point where I would be, multiple calling Alex if I hadn't heard from him in like an hour and a half. I'd be like, oh my God, he's
mm,
dead. He's cheating on me, etc., etc. And it was, again, that conversation of him saying to me, do you think this is something that, this expectation for me to need to communicate with you as much as you want me to is
mm.
actually based off fear and based off your past negative experiences, rather than what we actually would benefit from in this relationship?
Right.
So it was, yeah, there's a lot of the first 6 months, I say, in a relationship are always the hardest. Everyone's like, oh, that's the best time ever, honeymoon phase. I'm like, yeah, that, and also so much to navigate and so many ways of learning to work with each other that, I think for the year on mark, then I'm like, that's my honeymoon phase. So yeah, expectations are, particularly, with everything on social media and with the feminine-angrists, as I called them, that are like red flag, getting the ick and all this. I'm like, shut up, like stop. This isn't, stop focusing on what everybody else is saying and start focusing on what you're saying, because the way you feel is going to be different to how somebody else feels. The way you
Mhm.
relate sexually is going to be different to how somebody relates sexually. The way you communicate is going to be different. And you have to navigate that with the person that you spend the time with, not based off what social media says is right or wrong. So like this whole, oh, if men want you, they'll make it clear, they'll call you, sort of thing. So Alex is the most emotionally unavailable person you've ever met in your life from the beginning of our relationship.
Mm.
Um, and like I said, we were so, oh, we don't care, nonchalant, don't, we're just friends. Um, and it took 15 months for him to tell me that he loved me. And to any of those Instagram red flag reels, he would be gone, according to that.
Right.
So I think expectations can't be there is no rule book. As much as, obviously there's a difference between abuse and non-abusive relationships. That's
Sure.
something that's very clear, and I don't think I really need to explain that. But when it comes to basic etiquette in relationships, it's always going to be different. And you have to look at as well, Alex has past trauma, he has past stuff, that the way he grew up explains a hell of a lot about why he is the way he is. And I'm
Mm.
very grateful I've had therapy, in the sense that I can understand that, and I can
Sure.
see, oh, that's why he's doing that. He's not, nobody ever told him he loved him, so why should he tell me that he loves me? Where's that come from? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Man, that last part you said, that's so real, especially for him. Shout out to Alex. That's yeah, that's a very real thing. I can personally attest to that. When you don't have those experiences growing up, or even in some of your relationships, then you don't know how to properly express it, or I would say your way of looking at it
Mm,
can be very twisted, very contorted, and it doesn't necessarily match. I think women are, typically much more comfortable saying "I love you" to their partner, because they typically grow up in spaces where it's okay for them to express that. And for us, very guarded, very
yeah.
private. Takes a long time, depending on what you've dealt with, to say that. And then, to your point, there's reasons why you feel that way. There's reasons why you see it like that. So rather than judging it because of the expectation that it should have happened already, or you should be
Yeah.
saying it already, understanding maybe why it's not happening, asking those, again, curious, inquisitive questions. What comes up for you when I'm saying this to you? Or why do you think you've been maybe hesitant or been concerned about sharing that with me? What do you think you need to see or feel for you to be able to express that to me?
Yeah.
Trying to get more background. So less judgment, more understanding, right? That
Mhm.
to me is generally like my rule of thumb, which I heard you say, which is beautiful that you said that, because we don't always do that. And I think sometimes if we were operating, let's say, thankfully, I don't live on social media. So I don't get my cues from social media. I grew up before social media. So I find value in it, but not in terms of like how to moderate my life.
Yeah.
I don't see any value in that. I learned quote unquote old school. Um, that I've developed those ideals beforehand. So that doesn't shape my reality, but for younger people, it does. And that's fair. So understanding that, hey, just because these people might promote this is what you should deal with, this is what you shouldn't deal with, you got to understand, number one, they have their own personal implicit bias as well. So they're going to
Mhm.
see things through their lens because of what they experience, and they may be projecting that onto you. And you may not even be aware of that because maybe you don't have a good sense of what you need, what you look for, what you expect, so on and so forth. So I think it's important to understand that. So if you only get your information from, well, she said that he should be doing this right now and
Mhm.
he's not, so I guess I should leave him, right?
Yeah.
Well, she's not in your bedroom. She's not in these conversations. She's not communicating with him. Maybe you should communicate with him first. So before you go seek all this outside counsel and guidance, maybe try to have more of those honest, intimate, deep conversations with him to better understand what's going on for him. Because
Mhm.
number one, I always want women to understand this because this has not changed yet. It is very, very hard and very, very difficult for the vast majority of men in the world. I've been fortunate enough to talk to a lot of different men from a lot of different places for us to open up and be very emotionally expressive. Sometimes it's because we choose to, sometimes it's because of a lot of what we've had to deal with and experience. And because we've also not taken or had the opportunity to do the internal work that we need to make it easier to open up, it's going to be a challenge. Just
Yeah.
like if I'm sure when Alex was first learning to navigate his relationship with you, somebody who has been assaulted before, intimacy, trust, consent, those are going to be difficult things to navigate. Not
Mm.
because he did anything to you, but because you had those experiences prior to the relationship, right?
Mhm.
So it's understanding that in a similar way, he may have gone through some things that taught him to be very emotionally repressive. So then he's not going to be as expressive, and we have to learn how to deal with that because the vast majority of men have those type of issues.
Yeah.
And it's not because we're broken or we're bad people. It's because a lot of us grew up in environments where it just wasn't taught to be normalized and okay. So to that would be my response to the whoever might be saying these things on social media that these are inappropriate. Because the truth is a lot of these situations are nuanced. There are commonalities that we can make some generalizations on, don't get me wrong, but a lot of things, particularly when you're talking about intimacy and relationships, are very nuanced. There's a lot of gray and unique context
Yeah.
to better understand why people are doing what they're doing. But more importantly, to the point of expectations, the thing I take away the most, and I'm glad that you've done, is that you have communicated that to him. And it seems like he's been receptive to that as well, because I'm sure you wouldn't still be in a relationship if he was not. So that to me is the most important thing, is being able to lay out, what are you looking for? What do you need? What am I looking for? What do I need? Am I getting those needs met? Okay, if I'm not, how often are we sitting down to talk about this? Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's awkward. But the more we do it, the less awkward it will become.